for fees doing cold water work as a student. When he graduated from Avondale in 1914, Pearl graduated with him in the same graduating class. They both graduated together. And a few days later, they got married. But they had received a call to go to Tonga. You'll hear something about that call from Dr. Roger here a little later on. They came out in 1915, arriving in Tonga on February 3, 1915. He came to Faleloa, here in Paula, and taught in a little school, but only had boys in the school. And this was something that was very much on the mind and thinking of his wife, Pearl. She kept telling him, we have to get the school open for girls as well. She wanted to see the girls. She's very much in favour of girl education, and she worked till eventually the mission around opened up schooling for girls as well, and the girls have been since that time. While living here for 4 years in Faleloa, he entered the life of the community. He taught the boys English in school and said to them, I'll teach you English in school if you teach me Tongan. And so at the end of 1 year of teaching the class of boys, he preached his first sermon in Tongan language. So he learned the Tongan language very well. And he could say Tongan tongue twisters very well also. He understood the Tongan grammar. And another thing, he came to understand Tongan culture. He was very supportive of Tongan cultural practices that were not conflicting with any way with Christianity. That's not the record of all missionaries that came to Tonga. Some of them wanted to change some cultures that didn't need to be changed. My father defended the keeping of those cultural practices that you have, that you still have, like the wearing of tavala and so on. We still see that here in Tonga. It's a cultural practice. It's one of your distinguishing marks. When you see a Tongan overseas, he's got his tavala on, I know immediately he's from Tonga. Because only in Tonga do they have that cultural practice. And so he defended those practices to the next island, Vakataumai. But sometimes by boat. But he also used to go out of the horse out on the reef in low tide, and on the reef, you know, the old route that some people still use today, I'm told, and come back into the island that way. And one day the horse tripped on some coral, and hurt the horse's hoof, and it went like this and fell into the deep hole in the water. My father went under the water, came up, and the Tongan boy that was with him said, you stay horse, horsey can swim. You stay horse, horsey can swim. And my father said, I stayed horse all I knew how. I hung on to the rope with the horse around the places, and the swim swam to a place where he could climb out on the rocks and made his way. He also capsized in the boat, I think, going from Paula to the next island, and the boat capsized, and the Tongan boy jumped in the water and helped to rescue him, and so that he didn't drown. Then one day, after about 4 years here, a message came to him that there was a sickness in one family. So he went to see that family. And that was what we call today the Spanish flu. It went around the world in 1919 after World War I. And they say that it killed some people don't know how many people died around the world. But it's been said that in 4 months, that sickness killed more people than World War I killed in 4 years of fighting. I saw one figure that 1,200 people died in Tonga. Another figure I saw was over 2,000 Tongans died in that epidemic. It went through Australia, it went through New Zealand, and thousands of people were dying. And so both my father and his wife, Pearl, got the Spanish flu. And they had to go to bed because they were so sick. But father would get up and nurse his wife. When he got too sick, he'd go back to bed and she would struggle out and nurse him. And then she'd go back to bed. He'd get out and try and nurse her. But there was one family, I don't know that I have the right name, but where my father wrote the story in the poem that he wrote, which I'll read to you later, he called it the man called Moses. Now, I don't know if that's the right name or not, or whether some other name should be used, but that's the name that he put in the poem. He used to bring him water and fill up his water jug every day, and also bring some food for him and his wife when they were sick. And then she died. And my father was so sick, he was weak, that the Tongans in the village said to him, "Come here to do it." And my father conducted the funeral service for his own wife. Can you imagine that? Very difficult. And then he went down to the capital, stayed there with some Langi folk for a while, and then he came back and opened up the school again. As he got his strength back, started to teach, but the church office in Australia wrote to him and said, "You come back to Australia." So he went back to Australia and he worked in Victoria conference for about 4 years. And while he was there, he courted my mother. Now, my mother was a younger sister of his first wife. He knew a good family when he found them, you see. So then he married my mother and adopted the girl that they were planning to adopt in the first marriage. And the girl born in Australia needed a home, and they adopted her, and they brought her back out here with them to Tonga. Came back to Tonga, but when he came back to Tonga, he did not come here, he went to Latu. And one day somebody brought a little cat, a little kitten to him that was sick, very sick. And my father, loving animals, was trying to get it well and giving it some milk to drink, and it bit him on the finger. And from that cat bite, he got general poisoning of his body. And became very sick. So sick that the doctor in Davao said to him, "If you stay here in Tonga, we will bury you here. Go to New Zealand, get some medical help." This was before we had antibiotics. No penicillin or other antibiotics to use. So he went down to Tonga, from Tonga down to New Zealand, and lived down there for 5 years. It took 1 year for him to get well. And then he worked as a pastor and evangelistic team in New Zealand for 4 years. And during that time, their first daughter was born. So they had one adopted daughter, then they had one of their own born in New Zealand. One born in Australia, one born in New Zealand. And then, can you imagine what happened? He came back to Tonga again. He couldn't keep away from here. He loved the Tongan people. He learned their language, knew their culture, and he loved the Tongan people. We came back again the third time. And then when 5 years were up, he had a furlough, went to Australia. By that time, the family had grown, and I was the baby. So I was taken off from Tonga to Australia, went into Queensland, so New South Wales, when I was about 1 year and 6 months old. I don't remember anything about that visit, but then he came back to Tonga again. He spent another 5 years here. And during that time, more children were born. 2 more children were born. Out of 7 children, 5 were born in Tonga. 5 of us. Some have said that I ought to get Tongan passport and become a citizen here. But anyway, one time they were having a meeting in Australia, of a church meeting, and they wrote him a letter, and they said that you have been appointed as a delegate from the islands to come to this big conference meeting that we have planned. So come in. My father wrote to them and said, I can come in for the meeting and then come back, but in 6 months' time my furlough is due, and then I go back to Australia. I have a family of children here in Tonga, and they're not going to a proper school. Our mother was teaching us because she was a trained school teacher. So we were doing correspondence lessons and so on, and she was teaching. So he suggested to them, can I bring my family in now and let them get some schooling, and then go back to Tonga for myself for 6 months, and then I come in on furlough, and have my furlough, and then we'll all go back to Tonga. That would give my family about 1 year of schooling. And the leaders of the church said, yes. So we all went into Australia. Went down to Warburton, and then later went to Adelaide, and Dad went to the conference, then he came back to Tonga all by himself. Supposed to be for 6 months, and then go on his furlough. But you see, he had Bernard Hadfield and his wife working with him in Tonga at that time, and Mrs. Hadfield got sick. And the doctor said, you must go to New Zealand to get medical help down there. Off you go. So they got on the boat and left there. My father was left here on his own, and there was nobody to look after the mission while he went away for furlough. So he was stuck here. And it took the folk in the division office or union office over in Australia about 12 months to find somebody they could send out to relieve him. So he was here for 18 months by himself, without his wife and without his family, while we were all in Australia. That's the sacrifice that he made so that we could get some schooling. And I remember when he came back and joined us, and my younger brother didn't even know who his father was. My younger brother Athel, that was here in Tonga last year. He didn't know who this man was, came into the house. But, well, he came to know who he was later, but first he didn't know who he was. So we came back to Tonga again. And then my father was called to go to New Zealand to work for the Maori people in New Zealand. And so all of us left about the 1939, 1940. The war had just started over in Europe, and I remember the Matula ship we sailed on had a gun at the back of it, about 3-inch guns. It would not fire a very powerful shell, but that was the only defence the ship had. And I remember seeing the crew practicing on the gun while we were sailing over the water, hoping that we would not see a German warship or a German submarine on their way to New Zealand. Gladys Pearl, 1891, and died on the 14th of March, 1919, which is 100 years today since she passed away. And to celebrate her life and what she did while she was here. Although she only had a short time here with the Tongan people, she's left influence, which the Governor has talked about in his speech this morning. And her memory is known all over the place, all Adventist families, I think, in the Tonga Tamu, over the Latu, Hapai, know the story of her sacrifice and the sacrifice that my father made, and the courage that he had to come back here. And he himself nearly died in Tonga 2 times, but he still kept coming back because of his great love for Tonga people. God bless you all, my friend.
Governor Paluka, Pastor Bea, Pastor Polini, special guests, family, and friends, thank you for coming. I'm going to be reading a poem that was written by Hubert Tolhurst called All Those We Love and Much Besides. We love the sounds of island words, the sights of island faces, the happy notes of island birds that sing in pleasant places. We like to sail the sunny seas with gentle breezes blowing. We relish fruit from tropic trees in rich profusion growing. We love the bright hibiscus blooms, the scent of tropic flowers, the stately palms with waving plumes, the lure of shady bowers, the deep blue of tropic seas, the glare of coral beaches, the very greens of island trees with fringing mangrove beaches. We see the sea all turn to gold, the hour of sunset gracing. We see the gentle moonlight cold, a silver pathway tracing on waters of the ocean wide, or dark lagoon enhancing, and phosphorus on evening tide, like countless torches dancing. How oft we've heard the busy taps of tapa mallets' wings, and lanny notes in vibrant raps from neighboring village ringing. Resounding blasts unconscious blown, like streamers' whistles sounding, and booming surf, not weary grown of hard and ceaseless pounding. Though these we love, and much besides, of subtle charm and beauty, nor charm nor beauty e'er decides our attitude to duty. Then these a higher call by far adorns the sacred pages, which bid us teach in lands afar the gospel of the ages.
Thank you.
Governor Paula and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for honouring the memory and the service of our grandfather's first love, Pearl Tolhurst, who's buried not far from here. My name is Roger Magnuson. Our grandfather had 7 children, and my mother, Nini Tolhurst, is Len Tolhurst's younger sister. Pearl Tolhurst was laid to rest 100 years ago, and she rests on Paloka ancestral land. And so we would like to thank the Paloka family for your kindness as custodians of her grave over the years, and also for your generosity in welcoming us to Hapai today. I didn't realise that Reverend Paloka was the governor of Hapai, but Viliami Paloka told me, and I realised we would need to behave ourselves while we're here, especially my cousins, Sharon and Nerida. We have a number of other cousins who would have liked to be here, and I'm sorry they can't be, and I'm sure they are too. I think it's fair to say that our family's connection with Tonga looms large in the imagination of many of us. Tonga is a proud part of our family narrative, and we have some other connections with the Paloka family as well that I'll mention in a moment. In my professional life, I've had the opportunity to meet quite a number of Tongans, and to be honest with you, that was part of the reason why I wanted to come and visit Tonga for the first time. I met Viliami Paloka because we were both members of a committee advising the Public Health Division of the Pacific Community. And I'm sorry Viliami was unable to be here today. He's someone I admire greatly. The head of Public Health Division, Paula, is another Tongan. And another member of the committee is Dr. Bill Tangi, the former health minister, now in Sydney. So here we are in Hapai. It's my first visit to Tonga, and I'm very pleased to be here. My mother was born in Tongatapu. I think she was 8 when they left. Growing up, we had beautiful handcrafted tapa cloth, like the tapa cloth that the governor is sitting on. Except we didn't walk on this tapa cloth. It was so beautiful, we hung it on the walls. And so for much of my life, I had memories of Tongan tapa cloth hanging on the walls. It's amazing how old that tapa cloth may be. It may be 60 or 70 years old. He was in his mid-80s by that stage. He told me stories like the one about nearly drowning when he was crossing between the islands. He also had a very large shell collection. Some of the shells were bigger than footballs. They were all polished, they were all beautiful. I don't think you could make off with shells these days. You would probably be arrested. But he took a lot of Tongan shells with him. I suppose they were different days back then. And he would put the shells up to my ear, and I would hear the sound of the sea. The time that my grandfather spent here in Hape and in Babao and in Tongatapu, those were the times of his life. Granddad would read me poems from the book of poetry that he wrote about his time in Tonga. He took delight in the physical beauty of the Tongan Islands, but he returns to his first wife, Pearl, time and time again in the poems. Granddad produced 7 handwritten copies of the book of poetry, and he called it Waving Palms and Scented Breezes. And my copy is 106 pages long. He gave it to my mum and dad nearly 58 years ago, in 1961. So here's a copy of one of the 7 books of poetry. By the time I was regularly visiting my grandfather in the 1970s, he was married to his wife. His second wife, my grandmother, Ruth Tolhurst, had passed away when I was 2 years old. I'm not sure that my grandfather's third wife really appreciated his continuing focus on Tonga. But as a boy, I was never left in any doubt. His years at Tonga were the adventure of his lifetime. And no time was more precious than the years he spent on this island with Pearl. Come back along the way with me, returning 5 and 40 years. That far day we put to sea, with joy that scarce suppressed our tears. We sailed far out, he wrote, where tropic day breaks clear over sparkling sapphire seas, where trade winds blow and palm trees sway, and orange blossoms scent the breeze, where Tonga's lovely emerald isles spread over these seas for miles and miles. So hand in hand we walked a while, so short a time, to me it seems, upon a verdant tropic isle, our future bright with happy dreams. And in our heart there rang a song, as on life's path we swung along, for we were young and we were strong. And then the poem turns black, and he spares nothing as he writes about the agony of losing his wife. The Tongans said I should be brave and take the service at the grave, a talk on endless life I gave. The irony is that not one of us in our family would even be here today but for the death of this remarkable woman in the great flu epidemic of 1919, 100 years ago. So the Tolhurst family lost one of its own, and she is buried here on this beautiful coral island on Paloka ancestral lands. And Viliami Paloka also shared with me that a member of your family, Reverend Paloka, your family lost an aunt, Alissi Tapusi, who was taken by an Adventist minister, adopted by an Adventist minister and his family initially to New Zealand. My cousin Nerida was able to find out the name that she took in Australia and then to trace what happened to her, where she lived and where she was buried. In Australia, Alissi became Alicia Foster, taking the name of her adoptive father, who was a minister. She died in 1979. She visited Tonga later in life, I understand, but not as the person she would have been. And I see that, Reverend Paloka, as tragic. It is a tragedy for your family. Today we are commemorating events that happened long ago, but what remains unchanged is the beauty of this place and the warmth of the Tongan people and the strange circumstances of life that make us who we are. In closing, my Uncle Len has chosen a poem for me to read from Grandfather's book of Tongan poetry, and I'm going to try to read it in his handwriting from the handwritten book that he gave to my parents. I'm called to Tonga, Mother dear, but lo am I so far to go. As you grow old, I'd fain be near to aid you when your step is slow. No, son, you must the call obey. When you left home, I knew 'twould be, and you'll return again someday, and then perhaps be nearer me. So off we sailed, my Pearl and I, and never saw our parents more. Within 3 months did Mother die, and Pearl sleeps on a coral shore.
Thank you.
I'm not going to greet you in Tongan, but I want to greet you in English. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Governor Parker, Pastor Gibb, selected guests, welcome to this lovely service. This came about 2 years ago. My cousin Merida and I look at ancestry and try to find out a little bit about what's going on with our grandparents and a little bit about their story. And so when we discovered that it was 1919, we thought, well, that's a year and a bit away. This was 2017. So that sort of started a little idea that maybe we should come out. So I talked with my dad and we talked with some of the other cousins and things, and we thought it might be a good idea to come out. One of the things that my grandfather taught me, Roger talked about the shells, the conch shells. My grandfather taught me to play the conch shell. Probably badly, but I'm now a pretty good French horn player because it's the same mechanism to start the sound. And Paula is here, and he was in my brass band, and I conduct brass bands and orchestras back in Australia. So that was a very special just memory that I have. I remember my grandfather right up until almost he died at 91 years of age. He was always telling stories of Tongan. He was always bursting into Tongan. And we'd be going, I don't understand you better tell us in English what's going on. But he loved telling stories about things that he used to do when he was out here. Yes, and we've heard all the stories about going out on the horse and nearly drowning, stories of going in boats and having some issues. Because it was a very rough sea, he would hold the centre pole of the yacht, and Dad tells us that a little pig would come up and try and sleep with him, and my grandfather would knock him away, and he'd come back because he wanted some warmth as he was coming to and from the islands. So one of the things I said to my dad, I said, well, you know, your generation looked after the Faleloa Church, and I think about in the 1970s, his cousins and brothers, put together money to rebuild the Faleloa Church, and I said, well, now it's our turn. And so with emails and Facebook, we whipped around and I said, you know, we need to look after, and my generation needs to look after the church. So that's why we're here today as well, is to celebrate. I know the church was badly damaged in 2017, and so it's nice now to see it looking really good. The poem I'm going to read you, if I can get through it, it's called The Winds and the Waves of Love. This is one of Hubert's poems. I'll sing you a song of the ocean wide, a song of the rollicking sea. I'll sing of the winds and the rolling tide in notes that are joyous and free. A song that we sang when our hearts were young, and hopeful and happy were we, when off to the tropical isles far flung, we sailed over the billowy sea. I don't know how they travelled in those little boats, they're just beyond me.
We waved a farewell as we sailed away, far off into promising years, with never a thought that a coming day would change our rejoicing to tears. But ill will the winds blew, and the waves rolled high, and silenced the song by us sung. For gone was my joy with our sad goodbye, while both our hearts were so young. But list to the sound of the pounding sea that breaks on the treacherous reef, while breeze dealing pestilence rides the breeze with sickness, disaster and grief. Then I sang a song of a lonely grave where sleep on a tropical shore. Then knew one I mourned who was calm and brave through all the longest illness she bore. We mourn not as those who, in hopeless gloom, believe not the promise of God, but ere long she enters the silent tomb, the way of salvation to trod.
Thank you.
One of my nephews would very much like to be here, and he was thinking of coming and trying to get the money together for his fare to come here, but he did not succeed in getting the money. He's retired now, and when you're retired, and you know, pension, but he couldn't get a government pension because his wife is still working. So he's got to wait for her to retire before he can get a government pension. So he didn't have the money to come. He's very sorry, but he sent a message to us, and trying to relate to you here today some of the thoughts that were in the message that he sent. On behalf of the extended family, this, by the way, comes from Colin Richardson, for those that know him. On behalf of the extended family who could not be present, I want to send my best wishes for the program. We'll be thinking of you and remembering Pearl. We greatly admired Hubert for the bravery he showed facing his grief. In the 4 years that he was in Faleloa, he fell so much in love with the Tongan people that he spent almost 20 years of his life here, thoroughly learning their language and culture. He inspired all of his children and many grandchildren to go into church work and to work for God. Some of his grandchildren, all of his 7 children worked for the church or were married to people who worked for the church, sometimes both. And some of his grandchildren, Colin Richardson and Roy Richardson and Kerry Long, and maybe others that I couldn't recall, being missionaries in foreign countries. And Roger himself and Karen Carter have been working in public health in the Pacific Islands. So that's a contribution. 21 grandchildren that we had, because now the great-grandchildren are turning up. And the great-great-grandchildren are turning up, and even the great-great-great are arriving, because I'm also a great-grandfather. I had 2 great-grandsons, and a third one, a grandchild, a third great-grandchild is coming, will be here in a few more months. May God bless you all, but I want to read as I close the poem that my father wrote about the sickness that Pearl endured. It's called As the Thoughts Turn Back Along the Years. This is perhaps the best record of the illness that she had that we have. As thoughts turn back along the years to bring their joys and sorrows near, from out of the misty past appears the form of one to me so dear, that passing time can ne'er erase or efface or dim the image of her face and charm of unaffected grace. The sanctification I recall, her gift of kindly service rare, while earned the warm esteem of all who did her ministrations share. Devoted helpmeet, mate, comrade, wife. On peaceful isles, through years of strife, she lived and worked and gave her life. Her rippling laugh and tuneful voice came ringing down the years to me, no more to make my heart rejoice, or would it with her melody, though oft they brought a poignant pain. 'Tis now long years since she last sang, and round our home her laughter rang. Come back along the way with me, returning 45 years after her death that he wrote this. To that far day we put to sea with joy that scarce expressed our tears, enthusiastic to explore for Christ the future, but ashore, with parents we might see no more. We sailed out far where tropic day breaks clear or sparkling sapphire seas, where trade winds blow, palm trees sway, and orange blossoms and scent the breeze, where Tonga's lovely emerald isles spread o'er those seas for miles and miles, and everywhere fair nature smiles. Midst scenes of island beauty there, in never-ending summer clime, we gathered the ocean's harvest fair upon the shifting sands of time. The treasures that with zeal we sought were precious souls whom Christ had bought, including girls and boys we taught. So hand in hand we walked a while, so short a time it seemed to me, upon a verdant island tropic isle, our future bright with happy dreams, and in our hearts there rang the song, as on life's path we swung along, for we were young and we were strong. Then old Faluni, moseying through the coral sea lanes on her run, from Auckland brought pneumatic flu, and ere the island trip was done, and spread round from port to port, but no one had an anxious thought, or realised what she had brought. A few days later, at our door, a common horseman reined his steed as his horse, in earnest accents to implore that I at once with him proceed, for in his village the 3 men lay upon their mats in sad array of some strange scourge the hapless prey. So with him I rode along to give some help that summer day, nor dreamed that in that house ere long 5 pairs of eyes would close for aye. And thrice on memory's errand sent, to that sad stricken home I went, and then I too fell ill and spent. Had I refused the aid he sought for those in need that day, the malady had then been brought to me and mine some other way. To me and mine some other way. It mattered not for weal or woe to those who went to meet the foe and those who stayed afraid to go. The pestilence so quickly spread, it seemed to ride the very breeze, and soon were scores of victims dead, and hundreds stricken with disease. In scarce a home, no sick one lay, and rolling bells scarce ceased a day as mourners bore their dead away. For ere his ruthless course was stayed, it filled 1,200 Tongan graves, where toa trees cast their scanty shade, and sighed beside the moaning waves. Sad wailing tones the breezes bore, sad faces all the people wore, and death bells swayed from shore to shore. Of those who in our village dwelt, the first was I to be attacked, but soon we both its fever felt, that is, himself and Pearl, his wife, and by its pains were sorely racked, and as for days we helpless lay, old Moses from across the way refilled our water jug each day. And then from normal speech I strayed, as he went delirious. My wife arose and treatments gave. Relieved, I soon became dismayed, as her condition changed to grave, meaning serious. So thus did fate our roles reverse, the patient now becoming nurse, the nurse the patient, only worse. For came a day when I awoke to see pneumonia symptoms clear. To my tortured heart they spoke of peril for my partner dear. Her lips by fever parched and cracked, her racing pulse that never slacked, and gasping breath for air she lacked. With hydrotherapy and prayer, the crisis passed and she improved, but still, despite the utmost care, death's threat was never far removed. For months some fever ere remained, that rapid pulse was ne'er restrained, and wasted form no strength regained. How oft at night, through anxious hours, she choked, her coughed her strength away, and then what weariness was ours, as unrefreshed we faced the day. No doctor's skill was at our call, no doctor here in those days, and now I her quite recall. I doubt she could, one could have helped at all. He doubts the doctor could have saved her. I asked one day where we should go when strength returned and strength revived. She longed for home and wished to know, had some relieving help arrived. No one has come, I had to say. She sadly said, then we must stay. Within 3 days, she passed away. The sudden gasping sound I heard, and quickly stood beside her bed. I stood in the bed beside, but not in time or even a word of farewell as she did ere she died. She couldn't even speak anything before she died. For though I came on speeding feet, death's work was rapid and complete. And her brave heart soon ceased to beat. For once did hope my fears repel, but with that hope forever past, a grief too deep for words to tell, swept all my stricken heart at last. And when in sorrow's night we mourn, the brighter hope of heaven born points forward to eternal dawn. To bear her in her place of rest, the chosen senior boys prepared, when village people forward pressed, and eagerly that favour shared. Tonga said I should be brave, and take the service of the grave, the talk on endless life I gave. She slept these 40 years and more, now it's 100 years. Because this was written more than 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And ever restless sea besides, on Faleloa's farm and Prince shore. The village where she lived and died, but with the Lord's redeemed who sleep in dusty beds and mighty deep. She'll awake again, no more to weep. Good friends upon a neighbouring isle provided change and sweet relief, inviting me to rest a while, away from scenes of stress and grief. So grateful to them I went, who ne'er could know how much it meant of comfort and encouragement. My wedding school now beckoned me and occupied my time and care, till came a call across the sea from my Australian homeland fair, that twice I back to Tonga went, where many happy years were spent in mission work and management. Near 20 years have hurried by since last we left the Tongan shore, and long we've ceased to wonder why, or sorrow, or over what has been. For all that comes of good or ill, permitted is by God's good will, His purpose for us to fulfill. And gone forever with the past, our joys and sorrows tasted then. To life beyond the tomb at last we look, to meet it again. The the grave cannot its victims keep, for death is not eternal sleep. With such a hope, we cease to weep.
Tau whamaro rabe e ki koan, kari maoloa o me whalangi. Kai tupe mua ke tau whanamoa si tohinoa, ka moe mai mau ko tuku mai ki whaamiri koen, e whalau mai, e mai whalau, e whai e whamanatua, e tau te au, e nao mamai, e moe peo koe ni. This is one of the hymns that Margaret Tolhurst has translated. It's in our number 277. Ko I whalawhalahima I te tau whaosea ki ai himi ai kātoanga o I whiawhikoini. Te tau hiwa mai e taha e te ngahi liliu a hupe